I'm really excited for today's conversation. Our theme on Future Scale is always about finding non obvious paths to growth in today's world. And today's guest is going to be a perfect example of that. For those who are just joining the podcast, we are Elite AI, also known as Deepline Ops, and we specialize in helping distribution and logistics companies scale their revenue through information and automation. So if you want to learn how to take your distribution business to the next level, make sure to stick around. We're going to hear a lot of information. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs and we'll get back to you with a free integration plan. Dustin Schweitzer from Tequila Cabal. Uh, Tequila Cabal has grown to be so big, multi-state distribution, and they actually just won, not just won, but they won the double gold in San Francisco. Am I correct on that, Dustin?
Yeah, that was a few years ago. We actually stopped doing national or domestic, for a better term, domestic spirits competitions. The only one we submit to now is in Brussels. It's Mundial de Bruxelles, and it's pretty legit. Some of the spirits competitions and spirit publications that get posted, a lot of the results are monetarily driven, if that makes sense, where, some brands that have deep pockets have an opportunity to pay for accolades as opposed to earning them. So although the medals and the awards are good from maybe a customer perspective, anyone that kind of knows spirits and wine from a consumer perspective tends to realize that certain brands really shouldn't be winning them. And the only way that they are winning them is through, maybe a few bucks or donations slid across the table.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I know that one of your brand, I guess, pillars is authenticity, and like homegrown, really like being authentic. And I can see how that's a little disheartening when you're in those little smaller local competitions and you're not seeing your actual work be recognized in the way that you want it to. And whereas like people with, yeah, like you said, deeper pockets may be able to win over you. So I mean more on that because I mean like if you're already doing national competitions, you're big, right? What I want to know is what was the initial vision for Tequila Cabal and how did you secure the initial market fit? What did you do for that?
So my business partner founded this business before I got involved. I have a real estate background, but during the peak of COVID, the real estate market in Los Angeles really came to a standstill on lending, and people were kind of just freaking out with what was going to happen with real estate as a whole. Fast forward a year and a half, real estate started to boom because people started to value the place of home a lot more than they had in the past because they were spending more time there. But at that point, my business partner had launched the company a few months prior before the world shutting down and really hadn't made too many points of distribution yet. And so I had a chance to try the product, hear a little bit more about the story, and realized how deeply connected his family was to the world of agave spirits, especially on the farming aspect of production. His family's been farming since 1911, and they have
Wow.
over 2,500 acres of single state blue Weber agave. It's all organic, all biodynamic. Actually has a bioagri cert, which is the global stamp of approval. So if you are a wine person, you'll know that bioagri cert actually supersedes USDA as their regulatory body is significantly stricter. So I got into the business by chance, having met my business partner on a random day at a client's property. And I really fell in love with his vision and the opportunity for growth and scale at a large level. And so, his whole foundation for the brand was creating something that transcended just the juice in the bottle and really creating a ethos that represents something more than just an actual brand itself, but more so a call to action. Our brand name, Cabal, in Spanish, is the root word of caballero, which is gentleman. And gentlemen do things the right way. Whether or not you know about it or see what they do behind closed doors, they're always focused on doing things, quote unquote, the gentlemanly way. And so when he created this brand, he really wanted a brand to speak to anybody and everybody that was trying to hold themselves to a level of excellence on a day to day more than just sipping on a tequila or a spirit with their friends. Obviously, spirits, wine brings people together, hopefully during happy times, sometimes during sad. But what he really wanted for his brand as a whole, the cornerstone of it, was cabal, which is a call to action to really uphold yourself to a standard of
Mm.
excellence just beyond what the brand contents are inside the bottle. And so for him, it was really crucial that one, he created a brand that was easy to pronounce because there's a lot of brands out there that are tough to pronounce. Singular name so that when someone calls for it, it's easy to be heard and easier to be understood. And also, the centerpiece, the imagery behind our brand is a horse. And his family's been raising horses for generations. And if you know anything about horses, you know that they are a very strong, very powerful, very poised animal. But those horses don't just, wild horses are crazy. You know, they're tough to wrangle, they're tough to ride. You have to be crazy to try and get on a wild horse. But a horse that's well trained, one that shows that poise, that strength, and that determination, whether it's competing or not, is one that's trained really well. And in order to train a horse, it takes a lot of time, love, care, passion, and attention. Those are the elements that it takes to raise, quote unquote, a noble steed. Those are the exact same elements that it takes not only to raise agave in the way that we do, but also to build a brand that has the pillars and foundation that we have set forth.
Wow. Dude, thank you for sharing that. Authenticity. I'm seeing customer trust. I'm seeing honestly, your brand is built around the customer lifestyle, like what they should be upholding in their lives and how they should be kind of moving alongside this brand. So you're really heavy on the distribution and sales side of everything. So how do you scale up the volume of distribution while maintaining quality control? And if I may ask a little bit more internally to the business, because this is about helping other business owners, what internal systems and processes have become your bottleneck right now to increasing, like to, scaling up to the vision that you want to scale up to?
So, loaded question.
Yeah.
Everything takes money, right? As we know, especially in the consumer packaged good product. You are, especially in the space that we're in, it's very capital intensive. You need a lot of capital upfront and cash in the bank to get things going. When you're dealing with a CPG like ours, where our bottles are custom made and the agave takes a long time to grow and the production cycle is more than a few hours, it's days, sometimes weeks, and even years. You have to plan for that accordingly, but you have to invest so much capital into your consumables long before you'll ever sell a single bottle or a single case or a single pallet to anybody. And what we've done a really good job of over the last 5 years is with the amount of money that we've had, we've been able to stretch the dollar really well by investing in those core principles that I mentioned. And by investing in those core principles, we've been able to acquire customers at a very low customer acquisition cost because most of the ways in which we acquire customers has been through one, word of mouth, but two, customer facing experiences where I have an opportunity to either A, teach a master class, or B, be at a spirit competition or spirits festival where there's a bunch of enthusiasts in the room and I might get between 20 seconds to 120 seconds of their time. And I have an ability to connect with them. And if I have an opportunity to connect with a potential customer or an existing customer, I know that the things that we are building resonates with anybody. You don't even have to drink at all. And you will connect or be drawn to what our brand represents because it's more than just a brand. Like I said, it's a call to action. And with scaling that, we've had to be careful with not overspending in certain areas with regards to consumables and be really strategic in when we are producing those consumables, the bottle, the top, the label, the seal that goes on the bottle, the box itself. All of the things have to be produced months and months and months ahead of when you'll actually fill that bottle with actual tequila. And so what we've done with our team is we've done a really good job of monitoring kind of what we would call our run rate in terms of how much of each SKU is selling and into which markets. And then once we do have more money to invest in future growth for the advancement of more consumables, then we will maybe, wait 10% more on this SKU's production labels versus another SKU. And so we've had to be creative, not only with our time, but our money and the way in which we invest in future development.
Just to recap, most of your current scaling methods for finding new customers has been either referrals or those master classes where you can kind of be a little bit more personable. And then second, the biggest bottlenecks for you is time and money. Time and money is always going to be the biggest bottlenecks. But when we talk about time and a little bit about money, they're always tied to specific processes in your business, right? So you talked a little bit about this SKU like run rate calculation, the system behind that. I just want to bring that question back again. What is your biggest bottleneck still?
Our biggest bottleneck is accounts receivable. So, we have 11 markets that we ship to, um, and each one has either product getting delivered or product on order. And it's, let's say, anywhere from 20,000 to $150,000 purchase orders at any given time. When we ship the product, that's when the product changes hands. That's when we send our invoice out, and we don't get paid for 30 to 45 days. So the bottleneck really is really on the accounts receivable side. If I was able to collect, let's say, all my receivables in a 10-day period over the course of every given month, we would be able to plan for future development on those consumables and future product needs that are being monitored by um, our CFO, who also kind of moonlights as, a back of house operations guy and
Mm,
does all that tracking, seeing what's depleting at what rate and how quickly we need to reinvest in those particular SKUs so that we do have them available when a customer goes to order them. So getting our money quicker would be awesome, but also just having more money in the bank. I mean, we're currently in the middle of a seed round to go a little backwards. We did a friends and family round a handful of years ago, and we've been able to stretch the dollar really far. Most brands into year 5 would have already been out of business with the access of capital that we've had access to. And so right now we're in the middle of a seed round and currently looking to raise somewhere between $3 and $5 million. And
wow.
we've only had access to a fraction of that over a 5-year period of time that we've been able to stretch. And so we've really only grown based on our margin and those catalysts to growth, which have been those in-person experiences, which is a lot more grassroots, but takes longer. But we're starting to see the snowball effect from it, because now into year 5, we're getting a lot of people that are loyal customers and are staying invested in what our brand is doing and what we're developing. And they've seen our growth, and they've seen that we've been able to basically build something from very little. And I think that's not only one gives people a sense of like pride and respect towards us as a brand, but also it really showcases that we haven't gotten to this point by accident. I would say 99.9% of all liquor brands, if they had access to the capital that we did from years 1 to year 3, would have long been out of business already.
Honestly, I believe that. I feel like the way you're talking is very methodical. You guys have been kind of, yeah, like just MacGyvering maybe some parts along the way and really getting it done, especially with so little capital. I know that you guys are really on top of the operations, I bet. And honestly, I wanted to also, I mean, talk a little bit more to the audience in this case. Like, guys, everyone watching, like he's talked about accounts receivable. This really is an asynchronous process for a lot of distributors and logistics companies. They usually have like hundreds, sometimes thousands of customers, distribution and sometimes direct, like to retailers that they're trying to keep up with all this different minutiae of the admin in the background while still trying to deliver quality. I'm really glad to also hear the seed round. Wishing you the best in that, and 100% on the sales and in terms of like referrals and word of mouth. I think when you have something quality and people, like basically you talked about low CAC, the fact that you have high LTV for your customers now, and that like customer acquisition cost is still low for you guys as of right now. I'm sure your business is gonna flourish even further in the next couple of years with that seed round for sure, man. Okay, well, I'm gonna go to the next question right here. With all the different process commitments, like I'm seeing brick ovens, natural fermentation, right? How do you make sure that your sales reps and your distributor partners who touch the product, how do you make sure that they are committed to translating that? How do you translate it to them and try to get them as passionate as you?
So the first thing we do is, unlike most brands in an industry that's really lacking transparency, there's been if you're in the inner circle of the spirits world, and even if you're not, it's become national news. Some of the biggest brands in the world have recently gotten sued for quote unquote negligence and lying to the customer that their product contained 100% Blue Weber agave, and some of them weren't even qualifying to use the word tequila and were using non agave based spirit to be added to their tequila. So many brands, some of the big ones, have been sued over the last few months. And so we have an ability, because we control the farming, because we control the production, we have an ability to be as transparent as possible. And to translate that message, we actually include on the bottom of every label on the back, there is a sticker that talks about everything about the production in as short and as concise of a manner as possible. And so that's the first point of contact. Is anybody that touches our product in our standard bottle can turn it around, see the bottom label, and it will tell you the exact source of the agave, when it was planted, when it was harvested, and how we actually produced that particular spirit. And then on a deeper level, for the people that are on the sales side and the distribution side, we update a product sheet for them that we ship out to them. But with regularity, I have calls with my managers that are in charge of these distribution relationships, and I update them on any particular product change or production change. And I let them into what it is that we changed that differed from the previous batch. And then beyond that, a lot of it has to do with, again, that in-person point of touch. We like to do a lot of Instagram videos that really talk about the process and how invested we are in actually making a quality spirit. And the education piece is really, really key. I think, our goal is to create a product that's consistent, but not monotonous and redundant. And so I think with especially the world of agave spirits, where there's over 3,000 active brands on the US market for tequila, we're really trying to dive into the nuances of what it is that we do and how we do it. And so I'm definitely on the phone with a lot of these distribution partners quite regularly, giving them updates on what changed so that they feel confident to be able to turn around and relay that message to their customer. And I try and keep it as high level as possible. Now, if someone wants to get granular, we can get as granular as they want. But the goal is to really have something be digestible that speaks to the uniqueness of the brand and how we've made that subsequent lot or batch different without getting too micro, too into the weeds where we've lost them.
Yes. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So I mean, it's really nice to hear you're keeping quality on the product side while keeping quality on the ops side, quality in the communication that you do, and even quality in not just the customer's eyes for your current product, but for where you want to take your product every single new batch that you do, doing that little different thing. So that's really great to hear, man. It's really great to hear. Next question that I really want to actually ask you is now, so because we talked about kind of where you've been, what you're currently doing, and how you make sure that you maintain quality at the production side and every single part thereafter, right? What I want to know from you now is future scale, right? So thinking, let's say this from short to midterm, let's say 6 months to 12 months, what type of metrics are you really honed in on to drive clarity and also growth? So, tightening things up and also growing your organization. What are you looking at right now?
So for growth, in order to like really grow and step on the gas and do what we've done really well at scale over the last 5 years, we need more money. We can no, seriously,
I was gonna say it's probably gonna be that.
I'm going to be blunt. We need more money. We can continue to grow and sustain ourselves at the current rate because we've proven that our philosophies and our growth tactics have a proven track record, but we only can grow at the rate at which we cannot bankrupt ourselves right now. We don't have a massive cash reserve where we can set ourselves up for the next 12 months. We're only growing in increments of, let's say, 1 to 3 months at a time, basically quarter over quarter. And we're taking that money and reinvesting into the areas where we see opportunity. To really grow though, let's say I were to get an infusement of cash, $3 to $5 million. We have a blueprint of what we know works. And in order to capitalize on that said blueprint, we would set ourselves up in a way that instead of basically forecasting for 3 months at a time and procuring consumables and producing product on a quarterly basis, we would most likely set it up on an 8 to 12 month basis. And what that would allow us to do with access to capital is reduce our MOQs. And by
Mm.
reducing our MOQs, our FOB price, and for those that are listening, I'm sure most people know, but MOQs is minimum order quantity, right? That's what you pay per allocation of said consumable or product. Let's say you need 20,000 bottles. If their minimum order for them to ship you any product is 20,000, you will pay the most amount. And so if you order more, it's economies of scale, you drive the price down. And so with access to capital across the board, everything costs something. The bottle, the top, the label, the box, everything has a cost. And so right now, we are currently paying MOQs on everything that we produce. And so that makes it challenging because we're only growing based on our margin, and our margin can't increase unless we drive those MOQs down. We're not going to reduce our price. Our price is actually already very fair for the type of product that we produce and the quality of which we deliver it to the consumer. And so, with access to capital and scale, by being able to set ourselves up over an 8 to 12 month period, I will be able to fill my warehouse with, let's say, 6 month run rate and be able to produce consumables across everything that we use from bottle to box and drive our costs down across every one of those points and immediately build in more margin without even increasing our price. And so that alone will drive growth because we'll be able to reinvest an extra 10 to 20% of that margin back into the business. And let's say take 5% of that and allocate it to new marketing efforts or building out new sales teams. So immediate scale cash. If anybody wants to invest in a growing and budding liquor brand, shoot me a DM, send me an email. I would love to chat with you. But beyond,
Drop your Insta. Drop your Insta.
for sure, I will at the end of the episode. Immediate things, obviously everything takes money, and money is the catalyst for growth for most companies. But we see the writing on the wall. With access to capital, we can drive those MOQs down, which is really an extra 10 to 20% margin for a brand like this is monumental.
It's huge, 100%, especially in distribution and logistics. I understand the it's like what you said, economies of scale, and what that also means is like even just taking a couple cents. I mean, honestly, it's very impressive that you've been maintaining MOQs with all the current manufacturers that you guys are working with, because for 5 years you've been doing that is kind of insane. And my hats are off. I don't have a hat, you actually do, but hats off to you. Now we talked 6 to 12 months, okay? That's money, and I understand money is actually just leverage at this point. What I want to ask you now, in the future, more like actual future thinking, 12 to 18 months to 2 years, right? Once you have that capital, what is the next phase? You talked about MOQs driving those down. I would love to hear more about what your plans are for the marketing sales side of it. Because right now you also said word of mouth and master classes. Great combo right there, because a lot of trust is built. What is the next step for marketing and sales? Yeah, for Tequila Cabal.
So it's been basically a two-man show full time for the last 5 years. And then I have my CFO that I mentioned at the beginning of the call. And then we also just hired our first full-time person. Other than that, it's basically been me by myself building and managing these distribution sales channels for the last 5 years. But on the sales side, in 5 years, we've been able to grow year over year on average between 15 and 30%. And we've had growth every single year from year one. And that's with very little access to capital and zero help. You are literally talking to the only person that has spent 100% of the time on building out those strategic partnerships and sales channels. And so we've proven that the blueprint works, and we just need to reinvest in that with more manpower. And I think where a lot of companies go wrong in our space is they get access to capital and they follow the book of what a huge publicly traded liquor clearinghouse like a Diageo, LVMH, Bacardi, Pernod Ricard, where they hire a lot of people because they can afford it. But too many small brands get access to capital and they build out this huge team, 12 to 25 people and they're doing, less than 10 million in revenue. And I think it's a killer. And I'll tell you why. You get a lot of dead weight. There's not that much value that's being added for each one of those quote unquote strategic additions. And so for us, over the next 12 to 24 months, if I could build out a team that has 3 people that work beside me that do what I've been doing the last 5 years and have them strategically placed around the areas in which we distribute our product, it would allow me to play rover and reinvest into some of those bigger relationships where I can spend more strategic time with those clients and be able to pop in and pop out as opposed to spending, let's say, a week or 2 weeks in a specific market. I can go in for a strategic event or a strategic meeting for 24 to 48 hours and it'll allow me to float. And when I'm not there, I'm backed up by the people that would be doing what I would be doing at a longer period of time in those markets when I'm not present. And so we've already shown that what we do works at small scale. And so with adding 3 to 4 key employees to our team, I think we would be able to grow. If we were to, let's say, get $3 to $5 million in capital in the next 6 months, I would say 18 months after that, we would 4 to 6x our growth. And that's
Yeah.
just by adding 3 people and investing in the marketing aspect, which I'll touch on now, which is more experiences. The person that we just hired, he's great with luxury brands. He's doing an event with Lamborghini. He's doing an event with Richard Mille and getting in front of people. I think where a lot of spirits brands make a mistake is they're just marketing to tequila enthusiasts. Well, people that aren't just tequila enthusiasts, people that love fashion, they love cars, they love art, all those people drink too. And so what we've done a really good cigar smokers, what we've done a really great job of is getting in front of people that also drink tequila, but aren't being directly marketed to by every other single tequila brand on the market. And so tequila brands or spirits brands are like, I need to do all the spirit events. I need to put out cocktail content. I need to send my bottles to all the bartenders. That's all great. And that works, but all those people are getting sensory overload with all the brands that they're seeing scrolling on their Instagram or going to these events where it's just the same thing over and over again. And so we've done partnerships with Ferrari, we've done partnerships with high-end cigar and spirits magazines, we've done partnerships with fashion brands where we'll do a pop-up where they're trying to showcase a new product that they're releasing to the public. And we'll come there and do an experience where we'll set up a tasting where people can come and engage with the product. They can try it. Maybe we'll do a specialty cocktail that kind of coincides with the theme that they have going for that particular event. And so people are there and they're already receptive to something that's new and engaging and exciting. And we always bring that kind of added value to our partnership where, oh, I'm going to a suit fitting. This designer's showing his new fabric or whatever it may be. And we're there showcasing our spirit too. And now we're connecting to an audience that had never been marketed to by a tequila company before, but they're already receptive. They're already our demographic buyer. And we have an opportunity to connect with them, share with them what Cabal means, and it'll resonate with them because they realize that we're there to add value. We're not there to sell them a product.
Wow. Okay. There is a lot to unpack in there, but I love everything you just said. First, I want to actually just go right to the end, what you said, like taking a whole different, like cross-pollinating the adjacent kind of like luxury markets because your brand is kind of in a way it's luxury, it's quality, it's authentic, and it's gentlemanly, right? So having those kind of like similar, what is it like Venn diagram of demographics, kind of like targeting those increases your TAM like crazy, total addressable market. The sales side of what you said is super interesting because you are right. Other companies have hired like a sales team of like 12 people and more than half of them underperform within the first like 3 to 6 months and they're usually on contract and then they have to drop them after a certain amount of time and it's just a money sink at that point. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one last question. Thank you for sharing everything you've shared, by the way. This has been a great conversation and I'm just going to give you one more in your business that you could solve today get completely done, figured out, optimized, everything that will unlock the most growth for you over the long term. It can't be money, it has to be something. I know money's the easiest thing to ask for, but it has to be something inside of your business that you would just love to just boom, boom. This is to also help our audience know sometimes when you're scaling, what are the biggest things that experienced founders look at to actually push the leverage in the right place.
So I think the biggest pain point for us when you work with a distributor and you need a distributor, unfortunately, to sell liquor, unless you're crazy enough to have your own distribution license in every single market because it requires an individual license in every market that you operate. You also need warehousing, you also need trucking, you also need independent sales. You need a distributor because they do all those three things. They buy your product, they warehouse your product, they sell your product, they ship your product. You need that. Every liquor brand has it. We, crazily enough, did self-distribution model in California for 5 years. And I'm very glad that we've since moved on from that point. But I think the hardest part for a brand like ours is when you're working with a distributor, you're not the only product in their book. They have many other products, from wine to beer to liquor, aperitif, digestif. They got most of it. And there's two ends of that spectrum. You have the small distributor who has a small sales team, and you might be their only tequila or one of only a couple tequilas in their book. And so you're getting a ton of their attention, and their sales team is incentivized to sell your brand because there's no other competition in their book, or if there is, there's very little competition. That distributor does a great job selling your brand and always being top of mind. But there's two problems with those distributors. You have lack of purchasing power and on-time payment. Typically, the smaller distributor can't buy as much at once, and they tend to lag on payment. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have a big distributor that has huge purchasing power and a large sales team and a huge portfolio where there's, let's say, 30 tequilas that they carry among hundreds of other brands. Well, they can buy your product at scale, and they typically pay on time because they have deeper pockets and bigger cash reserves. But the problem is you tend to get lost in their book. And so if I could somehow solve a problem where I could create an incentive model for the sales reps that resonated with them, whether it be on the small scale or the large scale, that we consistently stayed top of mind. Because again, there's only so many bottles of liquor you can walk into any store or account with. You can't walk in with your whole portfolio, right? So if you're selling 200 different spirits and wine, you can't just walk into an account with 200 bottles of liquor and taste them on it. So typically, these sales reps tend to focus on the lowest hanging fruit. And so they'll pick the fruit that's closest to them, but it might not be the sweetest or the juiciest, but they can collect a lot of them all at once. And where you have a brand like ours that's a little riper, a little sweeter, higher up, it's a little harder to get to. But when you get it, the reward's a lot greater. If I could solve some type of bridge between supplier and sales rep that creates a bridge of both incentive and belief in what we're doing on a
Mhm.
more granular level, I think we'll be able to scale at a lot faster clip, because the reps that do reach up higher on that tree to grab the fruit where we're sitting, they then realize, wait, this brand has legs and people gravitate towards it and people want to engage with it. And I'm actually set up to make more money in the long run. But that climb to the top of the tree, one, takes more effort and it's a lot harder. And so, unfortunately, a lot of these reps, and I don't begrudge them, especially the big distribution teams, they sell huge brands. And a lot of these big brands have quotas, right? Publicly traded companies, like I mentioned a few clips ago, which is the LVMH Panora cards, that own huge, huge, huge brands. And so those brands have been selling for generations and will continue to sell. And so they just go in, they punch their order, and they leave for the day. And instead of taking, a couple minutes out of their day to maybe introduce them to something new that they don't carry, a brand like mine, they focus on those low hanging fruit. And so if I can create a bridge between us, the supplier, and them, the salesperson, that creates something that transcends just maybe I can find a way to get them to climb that tree more openly and be receptive to it, because the ones that do grab the fruit, they do realize that the juice is worth the squeeze. And the ones that have invested in our brand love us, they love the brand, and they love to see how the customer and the client engage with it. And they always come back and they're like, I love selling this. Everybody is obsessed with this or that. They love the new product line. They love this. They love that. And if I can create this bridge, I don't know. Now that you asked me this question, it's got me thinking of how I can fill the gap, right? Because at the end of the day, the sales rep wants to make the most money possible. Well, we have product to sell and we can produce hundreds of thousands of cases a year. And so if I can find a way to bridge that gap and get them to sell my product, because they will make money, they'll actually make more money than most of the brands they sell, because we have frontline cost, right? So their commission is based
Mm.
off of the frontline costs. Then we might be able to scale at a quicker rate. And I know that was a long-winded answer, but you had me thinking. And as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm thinking about how I can bridge that gap, because you can always put incentives in place, but
Yeah.
most brands have incentives in place. What can you do beyond that? Oh, yeah, you can offer a trip to come down to the distillery and all that stuff. That's fun and cool. And like people love to do that. But what I'm going to get off this podcast, and now I'm probably going to not sleep as well tonight, because now I'm going to think about how can I bridge that gap, right? How can
Yeah.
I get that attention where everybody wants their attention and they want to make as much money as possible? But how do you circumvent that and add value beyond just lining their pockets, if that makes sense?
I love that you even brought that up in terms of an incentive model. I just want to touch on that really briefly. Like communicating your brand's quality to the sales reps and having them understand the identity that you've built. Not only that, but also kind of reminding them about new lots, new selling angles, all of that stuff. Like that's really, really a huge, huge opportunity. I'm glad I asked that question because I think you might have in your head just hit on gold right there. Guys, I wanna really thank Dustin for being on this call. I want to thank you so much. You've been it's been a great conversation.
I appreciate you having me. If you guys want to reach out, we love to hear from people, love having conversations, open dialogue. You can find us at Tequila Cabal, and our other tequila brand, which we didn't even touch on, which is a lower price point product, is Tequila Potro, Potro. And then if you want to shoot me an email, I'm Dustin Schweitzer DS at tequilacabal.com. And then my Instagram handle is Dustin SCHWEITZER _ Schweitzer. I love to talk to other entrepreneurs or fans of agave spirits or cars or motorcycles or anything that piques my interest. I'm happy to chat and learn something new from somebody. So really appreciate your time. Thanks for offering some really insightful questions. That last one has me stern.
All right, well, guys, this is us signing off with Future Scale.